I just need to understand the brain of someone like Tucker Carlson, where it's more important to sow division. It's more important to attack people who, for all intents and purposes in an armed conflict, are your allies. It's more important to just dunk on Democrats than it is to do anything. You've got a huge platform. Alrighty, I routinely get disappointed in Tucker Carlson, not only because he's on the opposite side of the political aisle than me and says things that I find to be horrific, but also because he has the most watched political show on television, which means that he has an undue amount of power in changing people's minds politically, or at least shaping their opinions. So, given that is the case, we're going to have to cover what Tucker Carlson is saying in response to what's going on in Ukraine, because of course we are. We've got to. So first, as usual, fan art. Let's go ahead and get into that since we're here. From the Living Trash Can, here's a buff Catboy Suris, because that's the only thing I thought of when Suris was sick. The next one we have is from LML55, or IML55. Made some art based on Suris' Christmas bottle. I'll say that I thought you were a girl upon first seeing you, but hearing you were male was just as cool. I don't speak upon trans people, but I think a male dude using a female VTuber avatar makes them feel better about themselves in this day and age. That's my thoughts. But hey, love the VTuber model. Thank you very much for the kind words. The next one we have here is from Fire Sparks and just says, Onion Suris. Because I was on a stream with Mr. Atheist at one point, and we made a bet on whether or not a coconut or an onion was going to win in one of those conveyor belt races. And I bet the onion was going to win, and the onion did win. So that's right, Jimmy. I won that bet. Never forget. Anyways, as always, everyone, if you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, Tucker Carlson.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Since the day that Donald Trump became president, Democrats in Washington have told you have a patriotic duty to hate Vladimir Putin. It's not a suggestion, it's a mandate. Anything less than hatred for Putin is treason.
So who has actually said... Hold on, let's just repeat that.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Since the day that Donald Trump became president, Democrats in Washington have told you have a patriotic duty to hate Vladimir Putin. It's not a suggestion, it's a mandate. Anything less than hatred for Putin is treason.
All right, so this is hyperbole. This is one of the reasons, Darth Crystal, thank you for redeeming your points for an owl. Owl. This is one of the reasons why Tucker Carlson legally cannot be taken seriously. He literally lost, or he literally had to be defended by Fox News in court to say that he could not be taken seriously so that he could continue saying dumb shit like this live on air. That's when you say Democrats say this, I need to know what Democrat says it, and I need to know if it's the majority of Democrats. Otherwise, what the fuck? What the fuck, Cucker?
Many Americans have obeyed this directive. They now dutifully hate Vladimir Putin. Maybe you're one of them. Hating Putin has become the central purpose of America's foreign policy. It's the main thing that we talk about.
No, not really. So the Paris Climate Accord has been a huge thing in United States foreign policy. Yes, the stuff with Vladimir Putin has become more pressing as of late because, you know, he literally invaded a country. So Tucker Carlson posting this afterwards, it's like, yeah, we do talk about that a lot now. Because the dude invaded a fucking country. What do you expect? But
entire cable channels are now devoted to it. Very soon...
Entire cable channels being devoted to it. What cable channels are devoted entirely to just hating Putin? Can you name one? Can you name one? My thought is this is an aim at CNN, but I just can he really name one? Yeah, there's a reason that Fox News isn't officially a news channel. It's news entertainment. Also, Lady Necro, fucking, of course, that would get dropped on a Tucker Carlson bit. God damn it. Fucking hell. Lady Necro has dropped 50,001 fucking channel points to make me say, "Oh, whoa," in the middle of this, of all things. Jesus fucking Christ! People have no decency. People who like ooh woo are made of indecency. Chaotic Brook, thank you for redeeming your points, friend. You fucking monster. But
that hatred of Vladimir Putin could bring the United States into a conflict in Eastern Europe. Before that happens, it might be worth asking yourself, since it is getting pretty serious, what is this really about? Why do I hate Putin so much?
Is it because he's a totalitarian dictator who hates freedom of speech? That would be a good reason.
Has Putin ever called me a racist? Has he threatened to get me fired for disagreeing with him? Has he shipped every middle-class job in my town to Russia? Did he manufacture a worldwide pandemic that wrecked my business and kept me indoors for 2 years?
So the pandemic began while Trump was in office. Just throwing that out there. So these are all things that are being levied at Democrats. That's the idea. The thesis seems to be, why do you hate Putin? You should hate the real enemy, Democrats. At least that seems to be the thesis here that I'm getting. Which is bullshit and dumb and stupid. But, you know, what are you going to do? No, sir, I think Putin attacking Ukraine might be the reason we go after him. Yeah, I know, right? Can you imagine the size of the boot that Tucker Carlson not only shoved up his own ass, but licked? Deep-throated even. To get to this point. We're honestly making a segment. I know that this totalitarian dictator just invaded another country, but the real enemy always has been them liberals. Can you imagine being Tucker Carlson and this being what you do? I made a joke that Fox News would likely come up against this, or come up on this almost pro-Putin, but we're fucking here, and the joke is fucking reality.
Is he teaching my children to embrace racial discrimination? Is he making fentanyl? Is he trying to snuff out Christianity? Does he eat dogs? These are...
That last one feels like just a knock at Chinese people. Does that one... Am I the only one? Maybe my ears are just tuned to hear weird shit these days. But that feels like just a knock against Chinese people. Yeah, it's an anti-Asian dog whistle. Yep. Fentanyl and dog eating are like two super dog. Oh, yeah, that's right. Alex Jones was doing that as well. It's the whole reason he made that fucking VTuber avatar. Chimo? Was it Chimo? Or Fentanyl, the Chimo dragon? Or something like that?
These are fair questions, and the answer to all of them is no. Vladimir Putin didn't do any of that. So why does permanent Washington hate him so much? If you've been watching the news, you know that Putin is having a border dispute with a nation called Ukraine. Now, the main thing to know about Ukraine for our purposes is that its leaders once sent millions of dollars to Joe Biden's family. Not surprisingly, Ukraine is now one of Biden's favorite countries.
So you literally just wrapped up the entirety of 30 years of history for a sovereign nation up in... Well, at one point, a person there may have sent money to Biden. That's what? Yeah, a border dispute and an invasion are two very different things. You dumb shit. Maybe it's less important that Ukraine sent support to Biden. I'm just accepting that as fact for the purpose of this conversation. Actually, no. No, I'm not accepting that as fact for the purpose of the conversation. Let's see here. Did Ukraine send millions to Biden? Let's take a look here. Just for a second. Just for a second. Dumb shit McGee. The claim Hunter Biden received $3.5 million from the wife of the former mayor of Moscow. During their first debate on September 29th, President Donald Trump charged Hunter Biden, the son, that was receiving $3.5 million from wife of Moscow's ex-mayor, and demanded an investigation. Is that what he's talking about? Is it that? I don't fucking. We grant the premise for now. I'm not doing it.
Biden has pledged to defend Ukraine's borders even as he opens our borders to the world. That's how it works. Invading America is called equity. Invading Ukraine is a war crime.
How are we being invaded? Who is invading us? Is there an occupying army here? Is there somebody sending military troops here? That's Tucker. Is that fucking happening? We just, are we calling people coming up here to, are we calling people who are just immigrating here fucking invasive forces? Really? Really? This is the dude. I'm sorry, if you happen to be a fan of Tucker Carlson, I have friends, okay? I have friends who have liked Tucker Carlson's shit. And the reason I have been given is he triggers the liberals. Look at that. He triggers the liberals. It's so good. He makes the liberals mad. This is your guy. This scum-sucking piece of shit who's one of the best arguments for the efficacy of abortion, who would have been better shot out of his mother's baby cannon into a wall. This is your guy. This is your guy. But it's funny. Civilians are being ran over in the streets by tanks. And this is your guy. This is your guy. This is your dude. As somebody with at least an ounce of human decency, I don't get it. I just don't.
So with every day, we move closer to some kind of conflict with Russia, a conflict that could easily spin out of control, given that the people running this have no fine motor skills. The administration assures...
Given the people running this have no fine motor skills? But is this a Sleepy Jojo? Is that what it is?
This has nothing at all to do with repaying Joe Biden's personal debts to Ukrainian oligarchs. Not at all. It's completely and totally unrelated. The point here is to...
Every NATO nation... Do they all owe millions to Ukraine? Is that the point? What? Tucker.
Defend democracy. Not that Ukraine is a democracy. It is not a democracy. Ukraine's
It's a republic. It's like us. It's a fucking republic.
President has arrested his main political opponent. He has shut down newspapers and television stations that have dared to criticize him.
Okay, but when you say that's oh yeah, that's where you got it. That's where you got. That makes sense. No. That makes sense. I get it now. I get it. This is where it comes from. This is the they. When you tell me that they say Ukraine's president did these things, this is the they. This is your source. Let's take a look. It's WAPO, but let's take a look here. He says that Ukraine's not a democracy. Well, let's take a look at some shit. Carlson has been channeling many of the Russian President Vladimir Putin's arguments for invading Ukraine, including that Ukraine is not a democracy. Putin has asserted that the 2014 ouster of pro-Russian president. You failed to mention that part. Tucker. Wow, you slimy little weasel. You failed to mention that part. How could that come? How did that one not seem to be part of your due diligence on the air? To mention that little part here. That the previous president was pro-Russian. Which means that for all intents and purposes, he could be considered an enemy of the state for Ukraine. If they are pro-invasion of Ukraine, really, that bit of information was the thing that was not important for you to say. That part, I know I'm stuck on this. I know it feels weird. For me to be talking about this particular part for as long as it... But it's very strange to me that Tucker Carlson, in 6 minutes, could not have at least slipped that little bit of information there. Wow, Tucker. Wow. Look at you. Getting all big boy in your clown shoes. You did it. Lady Necro, thank you for redeeming your points for an oh well. Putin labeled it a coup d'etat to not bring Ukraine any closer. He stressed the role of oligarchs and attacks on political opponents and media outlets. On Wednesday's show, Carlson expanded on these themes, tossed in another Putin nostrum that Ukraine is a client state of the United States. Ukraine, to be technical, is not a democracy, Carlson said. Democracies don't arrest political opponents. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Democracy is just about the structure of government. An ideal democracy does not arrest political opponents. You're right about that. But political opponents is a very broad statement in and of itself, and democracies in the past have in fact done that. Ideal democracies shouldn't have to, but ideal political opponents don't also support the invasion of your borders. By the way, Ukraine is a pure client state of the United States. As a department, that's fine. We're not mad about that. Go ahead and run Ukraine if you want. If you think you can do a better job than Ukrainians, just don't tell us it's a democracy. To some extent, Ukraine is a democracy as a matter of opinion, so we will not offer a Pinocchio rating. But Carlson, who has expressed admiration of Hungarian President Viktor Orban, his crackdown on civil liberties, is stacking the deck against Ukraine. It's a fledgling democracy with significant growing pains, largely the result of Russian pressure and interference in its affairs. It's certainly not a tyranny. Yeah, it should be noted. It should be noted. Ukraine, as an independent country, has been a thing for 30 years. Right? 30 years? So when you sit here and throw these criticisms at Ukraine, you have to point out the fact that the United States in its early years was just as unstable. Just as fucking unstable, with just as many goddamn problems. 30 years is not a long time. 30 years for America would mean that in ideal conditions, we would have only had, like, what? 4 or 5 fucking presidents in that amount of time? That's the amount of presidents that I've had in my lifetime. Like, come on. Come on. The facts: Ukraine has many aspects of a democracy. The president, who is head of the state and commander-in-chief, is chosen by popular election. The legislature has a mix of single-seat and proportional representation. The prime minister is chosen through a legislative majority and is head of government. The Supreme Court is appointed by the president upon nomination by the Supreme Court Council of Justice. That sounds a whole lot like how the United States works. That sounds a whole lot like the U.S. In April 2019, Zelensky was elected president in an election considered free and fair by international domestic observers. The State Department said in its 2021 Human Rights Report in July 2019, the country held early parliamentary elections that observers also considered free and fair. But what's on paper is not necessarily the same as what happens in practice. Ukraine's constitution, for instance, guarantees the right to peaceful assembly, but there's no law that specifically provides for freedom of assembly. The country has struggled to build up lasting democratic infrastructure as it has veered between leaders who lean towards Russia and ones who lean towards the West. Corruption remains a serious problem the government officials have only half-heartedly addressed. Zelensky has been engaged in a bitter political feud with the man he defeated in a landslide 2019 election. Prosecutors have sought to arrest Poroshenko on charges of treason and supporting terrorism, but a court said in January he could await trial while released on his own recognizance? Okay. Poroshenko has been accused of facilitating coal purchases for government and enterprise from mines under the control of Moscow-backed insurgents in eastern Ukraine, helped finance the militants. He says the charges are politically motivated. Freedom House, a nonpartisan think tank that ranks democracies, has labeled Ukraine a transitional or hybrid regime. Yeah, that's what you would fucking expect. Hungary, Carlson's fave, is also listed as a transitional or hybrid regime and does not rank much higher than Ukraine. Ukraine's overall Freedom House score is higher than that of Mexico and Indonesia, 2 countries that are also labeled as democracies. The Economist Intelligence Unit, Okay, the point is he's up his own ass. He's up his own ass. We get it. Ukraine is a fledgling democracy. It has been around for 3 decades, which is not a lot of time. Roverlearn, thank you for redeeming your points for an... You fucking monster. But these types of things are what you expect in fledgling democracies. But continue, cuckold the
So in American terms, you would call Ukraine a tyranny. But Joe Biden...
No, we'd call it a fledgling democracy. That's what we would call it. In fact, that's what we do call it. But, you know, it's fine. It's fine. It's okay to be wrong. It's just not okay to be stupid.
likes Ukraine, so Putin bad, war good. How will this conflict affect you? Well, it'll affect you quite a bit, actually. Energy prices in the United States are about to go way up, and that means that everything you buy will become much more expensive, from the food you eat to the car you drive to tickets you need to take your family on vacation this summer, assuming you can still afford vacation by then.
What a privileged fucking position. Tickets you need. Tickets you need. And what is he talking about? Well, what he's talking about is actually real. What he's talking about is true. This point. Yes, gas prices are about to go up. In fact, Biden in his address earlier today literally said that the gas prices are going to go up, and he's going to try to take measures in stopping it from going up too high, because we know that this is what happens. Companies take advantage of this kind of scarcity. And in people's panic, they will create more scarcity than need be there.
You're about to become measurably poor. That's not a guess. Joe Biden has admitted this. On the other hand, you're going to win an important moral victory against dastardly old Vladimir Putin, who is much, much worse than Justin Trudeau, just so you know.
Yes. Yeah. What was the point of even bringing that in? What was the point of even bringing that in?
So you can feel good about that because, let's see, come to think of it, why would you feel good about that? It seems like a pretty terrible deal for you.
Okay, so think about this. I want you to consider, Tucker, for a fucking moment. Now, I know considering is hard because thinking is a chore for you, but I want you to consider for a moment. The United States gets invaded by a foreign force. Let's call it Mexico, because you're so fucking scared of them, okay? Mexico invades the United States, slaughters hundreds of thousands. Let's say it happens. And we ask Canada for help, because we're getting our asses kicked. Let's just say, in this hypothetical, we're getting invaded. Mexico wants to bring the United States into its fold. And Canada goes, nah, I know you're a NATO nation, but nah, we're not gonna do it. We're not gonna help. Nah. Because they would go, oh, it would just be it would be costly for us. We would lose a whole lot of money in doing so. Our citizens don't really want to help. I mean, it's only a moral victory. It's just a moral victory for us. That's it. What? That's what that sounds like to me. How would you feel knowing that that was the case? Would you call Canada a traitor to you? Would you say that they are not an ally to you? Would you say that they are not being helpful in any way, shape, or form? Like, how would that make you feel? How would that make you operate? I just have to know. Because it's not a moral high ground thing. It's not about taking the moral high ground. It's about understanding that the sovereignty of a nation is important, and an occupying military going into that nation to take it over is not a good thing. That's not a moral argument. That's literally just saying, hey, Tucker, if this were to happen to you, what measures would you deem appropriate? I guess that does make it a moral argument because I'm basically applying the veil of ignorance here. But this isn't about having the moral high ground. One sounds like virtue signaling. The other is about being philosophically coherent.
And for the United States. Hunter Biden gets $1 million a year from Ukraine, but you can no longer afford to go out to dinner.
Wait, hold on, what?
$1 a year from Ukraine, but you can no longer afford to go out to dinner. It seems like a pretty terrible deal for you and for the United States. Hunter Biden gets $1 million a year from Ukraine, but you can no longer afford to go out to dinner.
Does Hunter Biden get $1 million a year from Ukraine? Is there any fucking evidence for that? Come on. Is there any fucking energy for that? Like, literally, this is an appeal to the lowest common fucking denominator. Hey, you're not going to be able to go out to dinner tonight because the United States might have to send military aid to another country. Okay. That other country's sovereignty is more important than you being able to eat lobster on Wednesday. I'm sorry. I just... If that is the appeal It's a fucking stupid appeal.
That's not a bargain. So what are we missing here? What we're missing is the big picture, and that's why Joe Biden has dispatched Kamala Harris to explain that picture to us. Kamala Harris's old job was to open America's borders. She did that. Her new job is to keep Ukraine's borders closed. Kamala Harris was in Europe the other day to...
There's a difference between... Okay, so hold on. Tucker, opening our borders so that people can immigrate here legally is a good thing. Preventing an occupying army from crossing your borders and trying to take over your nation is a good thing. But when you boil these things down to just, she wanted to open the borders, she wanted to close the borders, it makes you sound like a goddamn lunatic. And yet there are people that will take this and just guzzle it. They are taking Tucker Carlson's brain cum, and they are impregnating their brains with stupidity.
Explain the whole thing. She began with a history lesson, letting the European peoples know about their recent past, which she assumes they've forgotten since so few of them speak English. She opened with the traditional salutation,
wait, what?
Listen, guys, because that's the way real historians and statespeople talk.
Tucker, you're a fucking pundit who's rich because of microwave meals. Shut the fuck up about how other people speak.
Watch Kamala educate.
I mean, listen, guys. We're talking about the potential for war in Europe. I mean, let's really take a moment to understand the significance of what we're talking about.
Okay.
It's been over 70 years. And through those 70 years, as I mentioned yesterday, there has been peace and security.
Well, no, there hasn't been. I'm sorry, there has been constant conflict in that area, but let's pretend that none of the Afghanistan conflict happened, I guess, but okay.
We are talking about the real possibility of war in Europe.
Listen, guys, you may be Europeans who live in Europe, but you don't fully understand the ramifications of war in Europe. That's your problem.
That's not what she said. That's literally not what she said. I know Afghanistan's not considered Europe. I understand that. My point is that there has been war and conflict. Fucking no conflict in Europe. Ulster says no. The Balkan Wars. Like, okay. Sure. Tucker. No, Kamala's not sitting there going, hey guys, you may not know this about your history, but that's not what's being said.
The thing about Europe, you've had peace and security for more than 70 years. Kamala Harris just told the Europeans that. And that, by the way, is true if you don't count the breakup of Yugoslavia, which caused hundreds of thousands of deaths in the 1990s, or the Soviet occupation of half of the landmass, which amounted to the enslavement of hundreds of millions.
Wait, Tucker, Tucker, hold on. Tucker, I have a question. Did you just admit that there is logically a good reason not to allow those nations to be absorbed back into Russia? Did you just admit that? Did you just do that? My guy, could you not be stupid for like 3 seconds?
But apart from that, Mrs. Lincoln, it's all been peace and security in Europe until now. Now, the Soviets were fine. Vladimir Putin is bad. What do we do about that? Kamala Harris explained that too. Watch.
And the allied relationship is such that we have agreed that the deterrence effect of these sanctions is still a meaningful one, especially because, remember also, we still sincerely hope that there is a diplomatic path out of this moment. And within the context then of the fact that that window is still although it is absolutely narrowing, but within the context of a diplomatic path still being open, the deterrence effect, we believe, has merit.
Okay, so this isn't necessarily untrue. So while Putin has already invaded and that shoe has already dropped, there is still ability in saying, hey, you don't want a war, we don't want a war, back out, or that's what we're going to have to do. Like, that is still a path that can be taken. That is still a thing that can be done. It should be noted as well, this is something that Kamala has having to say effectively at threat of gunpoint. Because Putin did note that anybody who has any want to interfere in this particular scenario, he's going to make their lives worse than they could have ever imagined. His words. So, with all of that, I have to point out that that is a gun aimed at your head. Any decision you make, any statement you say as a public official is going to be stated through that lens. While I think that the right thing to do is send military aid to Ukraine, treat it as if it were a NATO nation for the purposes of getting rid of Russian occupancy. While I think that's the right thing to do, I understand the position of not wanting to do that given the risks involved. Russia's nuclear armaments are not something to just fucking sneeze at.
Got that? Take a breath and let it sink in. Here it is again. Quote, "We have agreed that the deterrence effect of these sanctions is still a meaningful one."
Remember, guys. This is somebody you should be taking seriously. This is serious political discourse right here. Very serious.
Especially because, remember also, we still sincerely hope that there is a diplomatic path out of this moment, and within the context then of the fact that the window is still open, although it is absolutely narrowing, but within the context of a diplomatic path still being open, the deterrence effect, we believe, has merit. Well,
okay.
Of course it has merit. The only question is, what the hell are you talking about?
What?
And the answer is Kamala Harris has no real idea what she's talking about. She can't
What?
even point to the direction of what she's talking about.
What the fuck are you talking about? She literally said functionally what she said is we don't want war, we want diplomacy. How is that hard to understand? How is that hard to understand? I don't get it. I don't understand. What about that was hard for you to internalize? What about that was difficult for you? I'm just gonna play. I'm just gonna hit play. I'm just gonna play.
Her mouth opens and predigested chunks of language come tumbling out in no particular order. It's soothing to listen to until you try to understand what it means. As Kamala Harris told us just last month,
we literally did that. What?
"It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day." To which we'd respond, "That's right, Ms. Vice President Person. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Learn it, love it, live it. And while you're at it, eat, pray, love." You can just imagine Vladimir Putin's reaction.
None of that is what she said. What the fuck are you talking about, you inane rambler?
To all of this, when an aide drops a translated transcript of Kamala Harris's remarks on his desk. The Slavic mind is a hall of mirrors. It sees traps at every intersection. Clearly, Kamala Harris must be setting some sort of trap for the Russians here. Her words don't make sense, but she can't possibly be dim and childish. America is a superpower. It would never put a senile man and an imbecile in charge of the country.
And you think Trump was better? Okay. No. That miss, whatever he said was so condescending. Yeah, that was the point. The point was not to make sense there for Tucker. The point was to appeal to an audience of people who are largely condescending towards women as well. That's what that was. There was nothing incoherent about what she said there, though. Like, he could have at least pulled clips that seemed incoherent. That's a thing he could have done. And he didn't. Instead, what we got was that. I just want to show you guys this lovely picture that I think is perfect for this particular scenario. I just need you guys to see this. It's very important to me. It's very important to me. It is a lovely Photoshop. It really helps me feel better about this scenario. I just need to understand the brain of someone like Tucker Carlson, where it's more important to sow division. It's more important to attack people who, for all intents and purposes in an armed conflict, are your allies. It's more important to just dunk on Democrats than it is to do anything. You've got a huge platform. You've got a huge platform. And instead of saying, hey, I think Biden's response was weak, I think Biden's response would have been stronger, and I think Trump would have done a better job. That's a thing you could have done. It would have also been an expected thing you could have done. But instead, you just decided to dunk on people. I don't get it. And of course, we've got the lovely trend here. Biden's bystander-in-chief approach to Ukraine may embolden China on attacking Taiwan. And again, yeah. Ending the pandemic. The pandemic's not over. What? Relying on Russia was a choice, and it's a stupid one. No, it's... Okay, so I have to also point out, it is better for countries to be economically dependent on one another than it is for countries to be entirely self-sustaining. And what I mean by that is economic dependence on one another where countries are concerned is incentive to not try to fucking take over another country. It is incentive to not do that. Interdependence is a good thing for foreign policy. Because if we are all dependent on one another for something, we are less likely to try to destroy one another. And I know that goes against a lot of people's base thoughts of like, hey, I need to be more independent. I need to be... No, interdependence is fine. Interdependence is a good thing. But okay, I'm getting mad at a tweet now. I've lost the plot of what I was talking about for this. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. This is dumb shit. This is Tucker being dumb on what should be an obvious thing. It's so easy to take the hardline right-wing stance that Tucker needs to take to satisfy his base while also not doing the dumb shit he's doing right now. It is so nightmarishly easy. And yet this is the angle that he takes. Okay. I'm done. If you enjoy this content and what I'm doing, please subscribe, hit the bell icon, all that other shit. Insert end of video tagline here.